Okay, let's review quiz number 4 for Audio 1. It is true that the Audio Encyclopedia defines acoustics as the science dealing with the production, effects, and transmission of sound waves. However, it is not true that one of the least important considerations is cost. Cost is arguably the most important factor in considering how you're going to construct your studio. And I don't think I got to explain that too much to you guys. Acoustic isolation. So this is something I like to talk about a lot about because there's some confusion, especially once people start throwing around the word soundproof. And I'm going to try not to get into soundproof. But acoustic isolation prevents external noises from being transmitted into the studio environment through the air, the ground, building structure, vibrations, in the floor or through the air or through air conditioning, all of those things. So acoustic isolation, trying to keep those noises out. Frequency balance inside of a studio, the environment, we want it to not alter the sound quality either of the sound that people are making in the studio or that we're hearing through the speakers, right? If there's a resonance or if there's a lot of high frequencies being absorbed as we are recording or as we're mixing, it's not going to sound good. And it might even sound okay in the studio as we're doing it, but once we get it out to somewhere else listening to the music, it's not going to sound as good. Acoustic separation is the highest degree of intelligibility and exclusivity between instruments. So, keeping one out of the other. I've made this mistake multiple times where, we can record those both in the same room and they're not going to leak into each other's mics. They do leak into the other's mics. It's just whether you can deal with it or not. So acoustic separation is keeping those apart. Reverberation is the sonic reflections within the acoustic space, the sound bouncing around off of the walls, whether it's good or it's bad. ISO room, ISO booth, isolation room, those are all different combinations of words that mean the same thing. A small space that's trying to achieve that separation of those sounds that are happening at the same time. Diffusers, they reflect sound waves back at various angles that are wider than the original angle of incidence. So those slats at the back of the studio, the little waffle thing up on the ceiling, all of those are diffusers. So as the sounds hit those, we don't want them absorbed. We don't want those frequencies to go away. We want them to bounce around a little bit, but not directly bouncing off together. We want them scattered, some diffused. So absorption, right? Just having to deal with what I was just saying there. We want to scatter them. We don't want to soak them all up. If you do overuse absorption, if you're sucking up all the frequencies, it'll have the effect of reducing the high frequencies, creating a skewed room response that is dull and bass heavy, as well as reducing the constructive room, like the constructive room tones, I guess. The first studio that I had, it had carpet tacked up on every single surface, and we thought that was great. It wasn't. Right? I guess I knew at the time that the recordings were kind of muddy, but I thought it was because we didn't have good microphones, and I thought we wouldn't have a good room. So the treatment in the room was bad. Okay, the last is about reverberation, or reverb is the persistence of a signal in the form of reflected waves within the space. So there you go. I hope that was useful to you, and we'll be back again next week with quiz number 5. Thanks a lot, and remember, like the kangaroo says, at these prices, I'm not surprised.